You are just a pretty wound. Nothing more. Blake's voice was flat, cold, final. Before Emily could react, his hand struck her chest and shoved her backward. Her scream was swallowed by the desert wind as her body fell from the hot air balloon, spinning violently in the open sky. The sun glared above as she plunged, limbs flailing, heart pounding harder than it had ever pounded before. Branches cracked as she hit a tree line below. Her body slammed into a thick branch before tumbling down through rough limbs and finally crashing to the dry sand beneath with a sickening thud. Silence followed. Dust lifted around her crumpled form. One hand clutched her side instinctively. The other was twisted unnaturally beneath her. Her eyes fluttered, but she didn't wake. Miles away, a lone backpacker named Kyle was hiking through the canyons with nothing but his gear and a quiet mind. He had taken this route for peace. Off-grid, no cell signal, no people. As he passed a dry creek bed, something in the sand caught his eye. A flicker of light, then movement. He froze, heart suddenly racing. Drawing closer, he saw a woman, barely conscious, battered, bruised, her clothes torn, her belly swollen in pregnancy. He dropped to his knees. "Hey, can you hear me?" he asked, checking for a pulse. Her breath was shallow, but there. He tore open his pack, grabbed a canteen, and carefully poured a few drops near her cracked lips. Her eyelids twitched, then opened halfway. Her voice was weak, rasping. "My husband, he tried to kill me." Kyle's face tightened with disbelief. He scanned the area, looking for any signs of what had happened. Her body was too damaged for a simple fall. That's when he noticed something black sticking out of the dry grass. A shattered phone, screen spiderwebbed but still intact enough to recognize. Kyle picked it up. It lit up instantly. The lock screen cracked, but a voice note had just auto-saved, time-stamped minutes before he found her. He hit play. "You are just a pretty womb. Nothing more?" Then a loud whoosh of wind, followed by a scream that cut off midair. Kyle's stomach dropped. He looked back at the woman, Emily. Her name had shown briefly on the lock screen. He knew he needed help, but there was no signal out here. He lifted her as gently as he could, mumbling encouragement she couldn't hear, and began the trek to his family's old cabin, an off-grid place he hadn't used in years, but it was closer than any road or town. As night fell, miles away, a drone hobbyist named Owen was reviewing footage from a desert canyon flyover. He had filmed earlier that morning, hoping to capture scenic sunrise visuals for his YouTube channel. But as he scrubbed through the footage, something odd caught his eye. A floating balloon, then a figure falling, just briefly visible in the wide frame. His cursor hovered.
He zoomed in.
A woman.
Falling.
Alone. His heart pounded. He clipped the footage, added slow motion, and uploaded it to his small channel without thinking twice. "This looks real. Someone fell from a hot air balloon today. Did anyone else see this?" Within an hour, the video started gaining traction. Back at the cabin, Kyle laid Emily on an old mattress, cleaned her wounds as best he could with antiseptic wipes, and splinted her wrist using a hiking stick. Her breathing stabilized. The voice note played again in his mind. He had no idea who this woman was, but he knew one thing. She wasn't lying. Whoever tried to kill her hadn't expected her to survive. Emily stirred in the dark, her voice barely audible. "Please, my baby." Kyle placed a hand on her shoulder. "You're safe now," he said quietly. "No one's going to hurt you again." Emily stirred again, her body aching and bruised. Kyle sat nearby on a chair, not sleeping, just watching to make sure she didn't slip away. She slowly opened her eyes, murmuring something about her baby, her voice still faint but steadier than before. Kyle leaned closer, reassuring her softly. "You're okay now. Just rest." Outside, the wind had calmed, but a much bigger storm had already begun online. By sunrise, the drone video had crossed 10 million views. The hashtags #BalloonWife and #Woman in the Sky were trending across platforms. Comment sections exploded with questions. Was it real? Did she survive? Who was she? No one knew her name yet, but people were already demanding answers. Multiple YouTube channels uploaded frame-by-frame analysis of the fall, and conspiracy theories bloomed like wildfire. Cal had no idea. He'd taken Emily deep into the mountains, to a place no one visited anymore, his grandfather's cabin. With broken windows and no cell signal, it offered the one thing she needed most: time. He tended to her wounds, cooked simple meals, and checked her vitals like the nurse he used to be. Emily remained mostly unconscious, but her breathing grew steadier by the hour. Back in town, local news anchors caught wind of the viral video. One evening segment led with dramatic music and a split screen of the drone footage alongside a hot air balloon company's logo. "Did someone fall from a hot air balloon in the Mojave yesterday?" the anchor asked. "And if so, where is she now?" Emily regained full consciousness the next night. Kyle helped her sit up, propped against a pillow. She was weak, but when he handed her the phone, she recognized the lock screen image immediately. It was her. The same clip was playing again and again across feeds. She watched herself lying limp on the ground, strangers pulling her from the dirt. Her eyes welled up, but no tears fell. She just stared, frozen. "Everyone knows now," Kyle said gently. "They just don't know it's you." Far from the desert, Blake stood in a luxury living room, clean-shaven and composed, giving an exclusive interview to a major network. "My wife has always been emotional," he said with a practiced sigh. "She ran off during a fight. She's done it before. I'm worried about her, but people online are trying to turn it into something it's not." The anchor nodded politely, but the comment section was less forgiving. In the cabin, Emily coughed hard. She needed real medical care. Kyle packed a bag and helped her into his truck under moonlight, avoiding main roads. The nearest hospital was still hours away. When they arrived, the nurse at the desk asked for ID and insurance. Emily didn't have either. Kyle pulled out a fake ID he'd made years ago, back when he was still running from his own past. He gave it to the clerk with a steady hand and a lie that sounded real enough. The nurse didn't question it. As doctors began running scans and checking her pregnancy, Kyle sat outside, scrolling her phone for updates. That's when he noticed it, an alert on Emily's cloud account. The voice note from the moment before the fall had synced automatically. It was now public. Not just on her drive, but floating across the internet, downloaded and reshared by hundreds. "You're just a pretty womb, nothing more." Blake's voice rang out, crystal clear in millions of headphones around the world. The rest was silence, then wind, then a scream. The world didn't need a news anchor now. The truth had spoken for itself. Loudspeaker, before we continue, if you haven't subscribed yet, please take a moment to support our channel. It helps us keep sharing stories like this with you. Kyle walked back into the hospital room, where Emily lay resting, monitors beeping steadily behind her. She turned her head slightly and asked, "Did they hear it?" He nodded.
They did.
Everyone did. Her hand found her belly, and for the first time since the fall, she closed her eyes with a sense of peace. Not safety yet, but maybe, just maybe, a start. The morning after the voice note went viral, everything began to unravel for Blake. His perfect millionaire image, groomed, respected, and admired, started to crack in places no PR team could patch. A former maid from his estate, who had remained silent for years, finally stepped forward. She sent an anonymous tip to a local journalist, attaching photos of bruises on Emily's arms and back, photos she had taken secretly while cleaning the bathroom mirror that reflected more than just tiles. Along with the photos were receipts, handwritten notes of money transfers, high-end jewelry purchases, and hotel reservations, all tied to a woman named Ivy Langford. The story caught fire. Reporters swarmed Ivy within hours. She was leaving a boutique in Los Angeles, dressed head to toe in designer wear, when the flashing cameras caught her off guard. "Miss Langford, are you Blake Windsor's mistress?" one shouted. "Did you know he was married to a pregnant woman?" Ivy froze, clutching her purse. "What are you talking about?" she snapped, before quickly ducking into a black car. The internet dissected her every move in slow motion. Her face, her hesitation, her reaction, it all became evidence in the court of public opinion. Back in the mountain cabin, Emily sat near the fireplace, wrapped in a loose sweater, holding a small mic Kyle had borrowed from a local podcaster. She didn't want to show her face, not yet. But she was ready to be heard. Kyle asked short, clear questions, and Emily answered with quiet strength. She told the story. How Blake changed after the wedding, how control replaced love, how money silenced everyone around them. Her voice cracked only once when she said, "He picked the baby name without asking me. He didn't care what I wanted, just that I produced what he wanted." The interview was edited lightly, stripped of music, and posted to a podcast called Anonymous Truths. Within a day, it climbed to #1 on Spotify's trending list. The internet didn't just sympathize, they rallied. Ivy saw the clip while scrolling on her private burner account. Her hand trembled as she held her wine glass. Later that night, she stormed into Blake's penthouse, furious. "You told me she left you. You said she was crazy," she shouted, hurling the glass across the room.
It's
Hattered against a marble wall. Blake, still calm on the surface, simply said, "You're being dramatic." Ivy didn't wait for more. She grabbed her bag and left, slamming the door so hard the hallway shook. Meanwhile, sleuthing fans online took a closer look at the original drone footage. In a zoomed-in frame, Emily's baby bump was now clearly visible beneath the torn dress she wore. The photo spread like wildfire across Reddit, Twitter, even the front page of online news outlets. "She wasn't just a woman," one caption read. "She was a mother. And he pushed her anyway." With public pressure mounting, Emily's legal team filed an emergency petition. The affidavit included the voice note, the maid's testimony, and Kyle's own written account of the rescue. They withheld Emily's identity, protecting her from direct threats, but the petition was enough. A judge ordered Blake Windsor to appear in court for a preliminary hearing. His lawyers tried to delay it, but the court denied their requests. In the cabin, Emily sat in silence after reading the news on Kyle's tablet. "It's working," she whispered. Kyle smiled, handing her a warm cup of soup. She stared at him a moment longer. "You've done more for me than anyone." Kyle sat across from her, unsure how to respond. His eyes dropped to the floor, and for the first time since they met, he looked uneasy. "I need to tell you something," he said quietly. Emily nodded.
Kyle took a breath.
"I used to be a nurse. Worked in a private rehab clinic. Found out they were over-medicating patients and billing for fake treatments. I blew the whistle. They didn't like it. Said I violated privacy rules and dumped me. Took my license." Emily was still. He looked up, half expecting fear or judgment. But she just asked, "And after that?" Kyle shrugged. "I disappeared into the woods." She reached out and gently placed her hand over his. "You did the right thing. That's all I need to know." For a moment, the room was quiet. The kind of quiet that doesn't feel empty, it feels earned. Outside, the wind picked up again, rattling the old windows of the cabin. But inside, two people who had lost everything were quietly starting to build something new. Not romance, not yet.
But trust.
And in a world that had taken so much from both of them, trust felt like a revolution. The glass doors of the downtown police station slid open with a soft mechanical hiss, but the room fell into absolute silence when Emily walked in. She wasn't hiding anymore. A hoodie draped over her frame, and dark glasses shielded her bruised face, but there was no mistaking the slow, deliberate steps, the visible baby bump, and the manila folder she clutched tightly to her chest. A detective at the front desk looked up, confused at first, then stunned. "I need to file a formal report," she said quietly, sliding the folder across the counter. Inside was a printed transcript of the voice note, an audio CD, and a notarized affidavit. "My name is Emily Windsor. My husband tried to kill me." Within minutes, officers scrambled. Phone calls went out. Within an hour, two unmarked cruisers pulled into a private estate 10 miles away. Blake Windsor stepped out of his black Escalade in tailored slacks and a smug grin until he saw the badge. "Mr. Windsor, you're under arrest for attempted murder and spousal abuse." He didn't even get his sunglasses off before the cuffs clicked shut. Paparazzi, already tipped off, were waiting at the gate. The flashbulbs lit up like lightning strikes as Blake was walked down his marble steps, hands behind his back. His empire didn't collapse, it vaporized. Stocks plummeted. Sponsors withdrew. His name, once printed across skyscrapers, started disappearing overnight. That evening, Emily sat in a back room at the station, exhausted but relieved. Kyle waited nearby, silent unless she needed him. The door opened and a man stepped in. Mid-30s, sharp eyes, hoodie zipped halfway. He looked at her for a moment before speaking. He said simply. She blinked, taking a second to recognize him. Jason. He nodded. I saw everything. I'm here to help. She hadn't seen her brother in 6 years. Not since their father's funeral. They'd fought over money, inheritance, silence. But now, he carried a laptop instead of blame, and a voice full of quiet purpose. Jason spent the next 12 hours combing through the metadata from Blake's confiscated devices. Encrypted backups, hidden files,
Recovered audio logs.
deleted emails. He found balloon rental confirmations, prepaid, with untraceable cards. A private pilot's name. A last-minute balloon altitude override setting. It wasn't just attempted murder. It was premeditated. Outside the courthouse the next morning, a sea of people gathered, holding handmade signs and chanting in unison. Justice for Emily. Believe women.
She fell.
We rise. A news chopper hovered above, filming the growing crowd as Emily and her legal team made their way up the courthouse steps. Emily moved slowly, but stood tall. For the first time, her real name and face were public. And the world was watching. During a live interview outside the building, a reporter asked her a simple question. What do you want people to understand most about what happened to you? Emily started to answer, but then her eyes caught something just off camera. A small boy, maybe 4, perched on his father's shoulders, wearing a shirt that said, "My mom is my hero." The sight hit her harder than anything else had. Her voice broke. Her lips trembled. And then she turned and walked away from the microphone, tears streaming, unable to finish the sentence. The moment went viral. But this time, no one criticized her silence. They honored it. Later that week, an encrypted message was leaked to a gossip blog. A series of texts between Blake and Ivy, sent just 2 weeks before the balloon incident. One message from Ivy read, "I can't go through this alone again. You promised me this one would be different." Another reply from Blake said, "We'll fix it. She's not going to be a problem much longer." The speculation exploded. Ivy had been pregnant too, but no baby had ever appeared. The timeline matched. Somewhere between Blake's manipulation and betrayal, Ivy had lost hers. Emily read the messages in silence, one hand on her belly. The betrayal ran deeper than she imagined, not just toward her, but toward another woman who'd been fooled into believing she was special. There was no justice clean enough to fix what had been taken, but maybe there was something else now. Something rising. The courtroom was packed. Every seat filled. Cameras waited outside. Reporters took notes inside, and Emily sat at the plaintiff's table with her lawyer beside her, palms pressed together in her lap. Across the aisle, Blake adjusted his cufflinks like nothing had happened. When the judge entered, the room stood. Once seated again, Blake's attorney rose and spoke with a calm arrogance that immediately set the tone. "My client pleads not guilty," he said. "What happened that day was not attempted murder. It was a tragic misunderstanding caused by an emotionally unstable woman who jumped from a balloon in an effort to frame her husband." Gasps echoed in the room, and Emily felt her stomach turn. But she didn't react, not yet. Her lawyer stood next. "We intend to prove, without a shadow of doubt, that this was no accident. It was premeditated, malicious, and nearly fatal. And we will start with the voices closest to the crime." When Ivy was called to the stand, she walked slowly, her eyes heavy, her presence uncertain. Her appearance had changed, less polished, less powerful. She took her seat, swore the oath, and when asked about her relationship with Blake, she hesitated. "He was charming at first," she said softly. "But he controlled everything. What I wore, who I talked to, where I went. When I got pregnant, He gave me money and told me to fix the mistake. The courtroom fell silent. Did you fix it? The prosecutor asked. Ivy blinked, then nodded once. I did. She continued under pressure, revealing emails and texts Blake had sent offering hush money, luxury condos, and a silent agreement. She would disappear, and he'd handle the Emily situation. Emily watched Ivy leave the stand with trembling hands. The betrayal was clear, but the fear still lingered. Jason was called next. He carried his laptop with a quiet confidence and laid it on the evidence projector. These are metadata records from Mr. Windsor's hard drive, he explained, flipping through screenshots. Private balloon booking, altered GPS files, and last-minute override permissions. This wasn't a romantic trip gone wrong. This was plotted down to the altitude. The jury followed each frame, blinking hard as travel receipts, voice memos, and timestamps stacked the case against Blake. Then it was Emily's turn. She rose carefully, visibly slower than others, and made her way to the witness chair. The room seemed to hold its breath. After swearing in, she didn't speak right away. Her lawyer gave a nod. Emily reached down and lifted her loose blouse just enough to reveal the bruises, faded but real, and the fetal heartbeat monitor strapped to her side.
Beep, beep, beep.
It pulsed gently through the room. I didn't jump, she said, her voice trembling. I begged him not to do it. I told him the baby would die. He looked me in the eye and said, "That's the idea." Then he pushed me. Blake's lawyer stood immediately. Objection. Subjective narrative. The judge allowed limited questioning. That's when the attack began. Miss Windsor, or rather Emily, do you enjoy attention? The defense asked. How many followers have you gained since this trial began? Emily's face didn't flinch. Have you earned money? Sponsorships? Press? The jury shifted uncomfortably. The lawyer continued. You say you were abused, but there's no police report from your marriage. No ER visit. No witness, except your supposed rescuer. Are we to believe this is all real, or a very clever rise to fame? Before Emily could answer, her lawyer stood. We do have a witness, Your Honor. One who found her when no one else even cared. Kyle entered from the side door, dressed in a clean jacket, but still carrying that quiet wilderness about him. He took the stand and didn't bother with dramatic openings. I was hiking. I found her near dead. She couldn't stand, could barely speak. But her phone recorded something. The prosecutor connected a speaker to the court system and nodded. Kyle played the voice note. You are just a pretty womb, nothing more. Then wind. Then silence. Then a scream. The courtroom sat still for a full 10 seconds. Then murmurs began. Jurors looked down, shook their heads. Reporters whispered. Blake didn't blink, but a single drop of sweat rolled down his temple. The prosecution was ready to close for the day when a note was passed to the judge. She read it, frowned, and called both attorneys forward. After a quiet conversation, she made an announcement. We've just been informed that the licensed balloon operator scheduled to testify in this case has vanished. His home was found empty this morning, and TSA records show he may have left the country using a falsified passport. A federal investigation is underway. Emily felt the chill before the word. S had even sunk in. Kyle looked over at her, concerned. Jason leaned forward from the gallery. The disappearance of the pilot meant one thing. Someone had helped him escape. The truth was more dangerous than any of them realized. But the courtroom had heard enough today. And the people watching at home now knew exactly what kind of man Blake Windsor really was. The tension in the courtroom had reached a boiling point when Ivy was called back to the stand. She looked different, tired, stripped of the glamour she once flaunted, her makeup minimal, her expression unreadable. As she sat down, she didn't wait for many questions. Instead, she pulled out her phone, held it up, and spoke with a clear voice that sliced through the courtroom like glass. There's one message I didn't share before. He sent it the night before the balloon ride. I didn't want to believe it then, but now she opened the text and read aloud. It'll all be over once we land alone. She won't be in the way anymore. The silence that followed was suffocating. Even Blake didn't move. His attorney tried to object, but the judge allowed the message to be admitted into evidence. A murmur rippled across the room, across every live stream and social media feed where the trial was being dissected in real time. The illusion of doubt had shattered. There was no accident.
No misunderstanding.
There was intent.
Clear and chilling.
As the prosecution began to build momentum for its next point, Emily suddenly winced. She gripped the edge of the table, her body stiffening. Her lawyer looked at her and leaned in, whispering, "Are you okay?" Emily shook her head, barely able to speak. The judge noticed immediately. "Do we need medical attention?" the judge asked. Emily finally gasped out, "Labor. It's happening." Within seconds, paramedics were called into the courtroom. The trial halted. The nation watched, stunned, as the woman they had seen fall from the sky was now delivering the child she was never supposed to survive long enough to meet. Outside the courthouse, crowds cheered. Hundreds gathered to hold hands, chant support, and wait for news. A few hours later, the official word arrived: a healthy baby girl, 6 pounds, 10 ounces. Emily and the child were safe. On social media, #Skyborn trended within minutes. The story of the woman pushed from the sky giving birth during her own trial was nothing short of cinematic. But it was all real. The next day, the courtroom resumed without her. The prosecutor, now armed with fresh resolve, presented a disturbing slideshow. Photos, transactions, GPS tracking, old voicemails. It was a timeline of abuse. Each slide revealed another layer of Blake's control: monthly spending limits, location demands, blocked contacts, recorded arguments. One image showed a pregnancy contract, a real document where Blake demanded Emily not gain more than 25 pounds and include his name in all media releases. Gasps echoed. One juror wiped away a tear. Back at the hospital, a local news anchor visited for an exclusive. Emily sat upright in the bed, the baby sleeping quietly nearby. When asked if she saw herself as a victim, her answer was quiet but certain. "No," she said. "He tried to end me. I decided to begin again." That line aired nationally, and it played on loop across TV, Instagram, and news platforms. It became a quote on t-shirts, posters, and protest banners. She wasn't just a survivor. She was a symbol. After giving her final testimony, Ivy disappeared. Rumors spread that she had left the country, afraid of the backlash from Blake's investors, lawyers, and rabid online defenders who still believed he was being framed. Her accounts went dark. She didn't return calls. She didn't issue a statement. She was simply gone. Just like the version of herself that once thought Blake Windsor was worth believing in. In the weeks that followed, Kyle remained quiet. He didn't want fame. He didn't give interviews. But one photo surfaced: Kyle standing outside a women's shelter, clipboard in hand, volunteering under a program that helped trauma victims reintegrate into society. No press.
No cameras.
Just quiet work from someone who had seen too much pain to pretend it didn't matter. Then, unexpectedly, the final missing piece of the puzzle snapped into place. U.S. Marshals, working with international authorities, found the missing balloon pilot hiding in a rented villa in coastal Mexico. The man didn't resist arrest. In fact, once in custody, he confessed everything. Blake had offered him double pay, under the condition that they'd fly alone, no tracking, no witnesses. He said it was a surprise anniversary flight, the pilot explained. But then he said, "Don't worry if she screams. She gets dramatic. I should have known then. I should have walked away." That confession, recorded and verified, sealed the final nail in Blake's defense. No more stories. No more loopholes. The truth, hanging in the air since the day of the fall, had finally touched down. The courtroom was silent as the judge read the final verdict. Blake Windsor, once a media darling and multimillionaire, stood rigid, his jaw clenched as the sentence echoed through the room. 32 years in federal prison. No possibility of parole. His legal team sat stone-faced, the air around them thick with quiet defeat. Emily sat in the front row, her baby in her arms, surrounded by supporters. She didn't cry. She didn't flinch. She simply nodded, gently rocking the child who had unknowingly witnessed a war before she'd even taken her first breath. The following month, Emily walked onto the stage of a nationally televised gala, this time not as a victim, but as a speaker. The room gave her a standing ovation before she even spoke a word. Wearing a navy blue dress and holding her daughter, she looked out over the crowd and said, "I fell 10,000 feet that day. But what crushed me wasn't the fall, it was how many women fall every day and are never heard. We can't just lock away one man and call it justice. We need change." She paused as cameras zoomed in on her calm expression. "I want to propose federal safety regulations for unlicensed hot air rides. I want laws that protect passengers. But more than that, I want a world where women don't have to survive just to be believed." That same night, a publishing house announced the release of Emily's memoir, 10,000 Feet Down. The subtitle read, "What they tried to bury, I chose to rise above." Within 24 hours, it topped pre-order charts. Bookstores printed posters with her quote, "I didn't fall. I was pushed and I still rose." Her story became more than viral content. It became a case study in survival, system failure, and the strength of a woman who refused to vanish. Behind the scenes, Jason and Kyle were already building something permanent. Together they founded SkySafe, a nonprofit digital network designed to track, verify, and publish aerial ride safety reports across the country. Any pilot flying without certification could now be flagged, reported, or investigated within minutes. But the program didn't stop at balloons. Helicopters, paragliders, charter planes, they made sure no woman ever boarded a flight into isolation without leaving a trail that could save her. Emily launched a second initiative shortly after, titled Airborne Angels. It provided trauma therapy, emergency relocation funds, and mental health support to survivors of abuse who'd endured isolation-based violence. The program partnered with shelters and hospitals across the country. At every launch event, Emily refused center stage. She let the survivors speak. She didn't want to be the hero. She wanted to make sure no one else had to be. Months later, Emily made her final public appearance on live morning television. She sat across from a respected anchor, her daughter asleep in her lap. She smiled, not with nervousness or fear, but with quiet peace. "How do you feel when you look back?" the host asked. Emily looked down at her daughter, stroked her hair, and replied, "I feel grateful.
Not that it happened.
But that I survived. And that I still get to protect her." The screen faded into applause, and the anchor didn't ask another question.
She didn't need to.
That same week, during an interview for her foundation's website, Emily was asked why she chose her daughter's name. She hesitated just slightly before answering. "Her name is Lily Grace," she said. Lily was the name of Kyle's sister. She died 10 years ago in a domestic abuse case that no one paid attention to.
No cameras. No trials. No hashtags.
This is for her. The reporter was stunned. No one had known, not even Jason. But for Emily, it was full circle. Her daughter's name was a tribute to the woman whose story had gone untold until now. Loudspeaker, if you enjoyed this story and haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing now. We bring you stories like this every day. Clapperboard, they threw her from the sky to end her, but she landed in a world that finally listened. Speech balloon, what did you learn from this story? Which moment or character stood out to you the most? Let us know in the comments below.